We just met up with this fine young lady over here. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Lucy White.
Tell us a little bit of what you do, what you work for. Just explain that a little bit.
So what I do is a lot of political commentating. So I go on Talk TV, GB News, and a few other podcasts. And I mainly speak about the impacts of migration, so legal and illegal migration, and how it's impacting my country.
How did you kind of start off? What were some events leading up to this to lead you to this way of thinking?
I would say there are a couple of key points, or turning points, you could call it. One was that our local MP, Sir David Amess, he was brutally murdered by someone called Ali Harbi Ali, an Islamist terrorist. That was like the final straw for me. This was back in 2021. He was in a church hosting what they call a surgery, where the constituents can come and speak to the MP. And then this Islamist terrorist walks in and gets a knife and just stabs him to death. And it's just so horrific. You just think, how is this possibly acceptable?
Would you say the average British person is kind of waking up to this problem? Are they knowledgeable about it? Because I know free speech is obviously a bit of an issue here. Do you think the average Brit is waking up to this?
Yeah, definitely. I don't see how you can't not wake up to it. It's just problematic everywhere. Like right now as we're sitting here, I can't see really any English people, and this is our homeland. It's just awful. I think people are waking up to it because, like I say, it's everywhere. But the issue is some people are okay with it. Like there are some people are just okay with this immigration.
Do you think if some person steps up, like for example, whatever people's views on Tommy Robinson is, I feel like he's convinced a lot of people, and like even like a few years ago he was so demonized, he was this extremist person, and now he gets hundreds of thousands of people to his marches. Do you think if a few people start stepping up, the rest will just follow?
Yeah, I do think so. And I think the thing with Tommy Robinson is that people know that Tommy for years was calling out the Pakistani rape gangs, and the government, the police, they were all working together to cover it up. And so people now the public will trust people like Tommy Robinson over the establishment. And I think that's what it is. The public, we just have no trust in our government. 30 people a day are being arrested on average for tweets. We now have a Home Secretary who is a Muslim Pakistani. We have a London Mayor who is Sadiq Khan, who is again a Pakistani. And we've just had enough. So we do need a leader. I think one of the other hopes I have is someone called Ant Middleton. We're hoping that he will be the new Mayor of London one day.
Is there a lot of white guilt in British people? Like, is it pushed in the school system? Like, how does this white guilt come about in the average British person? Yeah,
it's definitely pushed about in schools. And the history is very distorted. So even the Windrush generation, for example, the stories that we're told about the Windrush generation aren't actually true. And if you look back to the original telegrams of communication as to how the Windrush generation from the Caribbean came to the UK, you'll find out it wasn't actually planned, and yet we're told a lot of lies basically, and we're told that our country enslaved people and about colonization, etc., but they won't actually talk about any of the positive that the UK has done for the world. And we are taught to hate our country, and a lot of people are essentially made to feel guilty to be white and English.
What would you say to people that say, being British is just a piece of paper? If you were born here, if you got citizenship here, you're British. What do you want to say to them?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I now just say I'm English because I think the issue of the term British, it's just been so diluted that anyone from across the world, they think they can get here, get a passport, and then they suddenly become British. But you cannot just become British. So I think the term British is, as I say, very diluted. You cannot just become British, and that's why I will start to use the term English. English is of course an ethnicity, and I just think of them as all wannabes. They just want to be us, but they're never going to be us.
Do you have hope for the younger generation? Because I met a lot of people, especially at the United Kingdom protest. People are out speaking their mind. They're not scared of the consequences, and it's a lot of the younger people, because it's definitely going to be harder to convince an older person who's had these views for decades on end. So Do you have hope for the young generation?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think the younger generation. I think nowadays with TikTok and Instagram and X, Twitter, a lot of the younger people are actually understanding that they're reaching a point of truth where the schools aren't teaching them the truth, or the government is lying to them, and so they seek the truth through other platforms, such as could be TikTok or etc. etc. And I think the younger generations realise that their country is being taken away from them. They're seeing how there is literally replacement of white people in this country. So it's particularly the Boris wave. In 2023 alone, there was there was net migration of 903,000 people, but most of those, 85% of those, were from non-EU countries, i.e. third world countries, and the top 5 were from India, Nigeria, Pakistan, China and Zimbabwe, in that order. And you just look around and these people, a lot of them are just incompatible or will not be able to integrate. And I think the young English kids are waking up and saying, what on earth is this country? And I think if you look back to World War II, we fought for our country, and our country is now being invaded without a single shot being fired.
Do you think European people are better to assimilate to the English culture than someone from the Middle East or India, Africa?
Of course. Like, they're our neighbours. We've even though we're not in the European Union anymore, these are our neighbours. We share religions, ethnicity. Although we might have different languages, they're of course our European neighbours, and they will assimilate to our way of life because essentially they are still the West. They have a very similar way of life, as opposed to someone from a different part of the world that might think that women are second-class citizens, or they might hate dogs, or they might believe in things such as halal meat, that it's okay to have low animal welfare standards. I mean, none of these ideas are compatible with our way of life.
What are the next steps for the UK?
The next steps are to get a reform government in 2029, and then from that point start to take more drastic measures. Of course, we need remigration, we need mass deportations. What I think we need to do is start by, at least the last 10 years, we need to start by looking at all the asylum seeker applications that were granted, visas, citizenship, and ask who was granting those and why, because there have been cases of corruption. If you look at a case by a man called Imran Mullah, who was working in the Home Office granting asylum seeker applications, he would actually charge them about £3,000 to grant their application, and they were also coming from other Muslim countries. So there's been so much corruption in terms of who's been let into our country, but also so much incompetence. So Priti Patel, who was the Home Secretary when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, they just let in like 1 million Indians in such a short time. It's just like, why? And also there were more dependents than actually people on a worker's visa, and those dependents didn't even need to speak English. So you have people in this country that don't even speak English, they can't integrate, they're very low skilled, and of course it just all needs to be reversed. We need sensible people that can come in and reverse all these policies.
Do you ever think that it might be too late to reverse some of these things? Because a lot of the birth rates in all European countries, as well as England and the UK, they are so low. They're like 1.3, 1.5, and then you look at the Muslim birth rates, they're having like 8 kids per couple.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at Sadiq Khan, who's the mayor of London, he's one of 8 kids, and there's 7 boys and 1 girl. So like, even the mayor of London is one of 8, and you just think this is, disastrous. So I would encourage Europeans to have more children. I think that was, what Charlie Kirk stood for. He stood for the family and having children, etc. I would say, as long as we, it's like the analogy of, you have a bath of water which is flooded, it's overfilling. You need to first switch off the tap and then pull out the drain. So we need to stop migration and then reverse it with the people that are currently here. And until we do that, unless we do that, I don't see much hope. But I do have hope that we can reverse it, and that Europeans or English people, etc., will need to start having families. We need policies that support families to have children. It could be financial incentives, tax incentives, school incentives, because currently, what's worrying is that the number one baby boy name in the UK is Mohammed. I mean, it says everything for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, that should be worrying at least. I don't know how people. I don't know if people don't see that, or they don't see some of the videos I posted. You go on the train and there's literally zero white people. You walk down the street and you could say, "Oh yeah, it's a immigrant community. That's where they all are." But if you walk all around London, like I have been, they're everywhere. It's honestly inescapable, and sometimes it is pretty blackpilling. But what would you want to say to, I guess, some younger white people who, they realize there are some problems. They might not agree with everything yet, but what do you want to say to them?
I want to say to them, just don't give up hope, don't move out of the country, because what we're seeing is a lot of talent is leaving. People are moving to Dubai, for example, or they just want out of the UK. So we need to stay here. We can't just say, oh, we've lost this country. Stay in the UK. As Charlie Kirk would say, get married, start a family, eventually, obviously, not straight away. And just hold your beliefs strong, stand for your values, your principles.
A lot of people might agree with you that, illegal immigration is a problem. Yeah, they should come here the legal way. But some people also think that legal immigration is a problem. What are your thoughts on that?
Legal migration by scale is a far huger problem, because on average, in one single week, we have 850 illegal migrants entering the country, which is obviously a lot. But then if you look at the number of legal ones, and as I say, in 2023, we had net migration of 903,000 people. The scale is just off the roof. We cannot absorb all these people. So we need to tackle the legal routes. We need to ask, why are people being given visas, citizenships, and we also need to start prioritising a list of countries that we want to come here. We are the United Kingdom. We shouldn't be accepting everyone from across the world. We should have a list of countries that we say, you should be from these countries if you want to live in the UK. I think a lot of countries should be red listed.
Who's pushing this, and why are they doing it? If people are in this country, the government, what are the incentives for them to push this? Because eventually it's going to destroy the country.
Yeah, I just think it's all suicidal, and I think, as we said, it's a lot of white guilt. I don't think those of other nationalities should, well, again, they would argue they're British, right? But, I don't think they should be able to hold public office.
Okay. Any departing words for the audience?
I would say the West needs to stick together. We are being invaded, and we need to, I think the more and more people that are aware of it, we put pressure onto the government, because we even have the Labour government, Keir Starmer, who's left wing, is now calling for deportations. So the pressure that we're doing, our work is, the pressure is working. We need to keep up that pressure, and eventually they are going to have to be serious on mass deportations. Otherwise, the country will just... Yeah, people are angry. People are very angry. So don't give up hope, put pressure, and keep talking about it.
Okay. If anybody wants to find you or find any of your work, where can they find you?
So my ex is Lucy Jane White, one with a one at the end, and Jane is spelled Jayne, or just search Lucy White.
Okay. Lucy, thank you for the conversation. Appreciate everyone for tuning in.